I hope everyone is doing well today. As we can see in Boston here, it is nice and sunny, so I figured we would do videos outside on the porch and enjoy the air. So let's get to it. So today we're going to talk about awareness. And you can't change what you're not aware of. And you hear all these people talk about, oh, not being worthy and feeling enough and not feeling good enough and all of these different things. But that behavior and that story will never change if you're not aware of where it all comes from. And again, we're not going to go super, super deep yet. We're just going to start in the very beginning phases of this. And the beginning phases for me to discover this is, I created, and I called her Sally. And Sally was like this little 7-year-old that had long pigtails. And she was like that voice that was like, you just said, you just said. And she helped me like really become very aware of things that I said on the regular that I didn't even ever notice that I was saying all the time. And we hear people talk all the time. This is nothing new about people that talk really rude or critical of themselves, like talk to yourself like you would your best friend. But you can't talk to yourself like you're your best friend until you figure out what's all the stuff that you're saying that's really shitty to yourself. Or what is the stories that you keep saying? Or what are the emotions? I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things to come into play. Because I'll speak about myself for a second here, and maybe this will be helpful. So for me, I notice I feel an emotion of uncomfortability, and I would go to eat something to calm or numb myself out from that emotion. And I created this really, really deep pattern of this. And I actually was eating, not even being conscious that that's what I was doing. That I wasn't really hungry. I was numbing myself out because I was going home, or I was dealing with a situation, or I was taking on a new project, or I was going to do my first video, or I was doing something that I hadn't done before. And because there was this lack of self-confidence and self-esteem and feeling worthy of it, and not normally being comfortable really speaking out my voice, I was literally eating to numb myself out. So I would show up, but I wasn't fully showing up. I was showing up numb through food. And, so we all have different versions of it. Some people are really, really mean to themselves. Mine was really smart. Mine would do it as if I could hear other people judging me. So it wasn't my voice doing it, it was somebody else's voice. Because I would never talk to myself that horribly. No, no. But there were two people in particular, and it was always the two people. And I observed down the road, and it took me a long time to get there, that it really was my voice just tricking me to believe that these people were this harsh and judgmental of me, when it was actually myself that was that harsh and judgmental of me. And that was like, wow, wow. So, so what I would say is create your version of a Sally. Start using an app like Otter, and just use it, or if you like taking notes or things like that, whatever works for you, you do you, and figure that out for you. But it's like, but what we want to make sure is that you can really easily write them down, or you could voice note them and just keep track of them for a week, and no judgment on them. It's just data. We're just getting data, and we're just trying to see, for yourself, like, what do I say all the time? What do I think all the time? What are these habitual versions of myself that are showing up that might be keeping me stuck, that might be keeping me small, that might be somebody else's monkeys that I've taken on from childhood? Or my dad always said that, or my mom always said that, or my grandmother always said that. My mom would say, you've made your bed and now you sleep in it. And I gotta tell you, I've had situations where that has literally shown up in my head. And my mom says, "Oh, my mom said that to me. That's why I say it to you." I'm like, okay, well, we can all get rid of that now. Thank you. But we don't know until we start to investigate because we're so busy living and doing and being and all this stuff. But it's time to take a deep breath because I know if you're watching this, you want your life to change and you want to be happier and you have the right to be happier and you have the right to feel great. But you can't change what we don't pay attention to, and we have the life that we focus on, not the life that we really want. And so this awareness piece is really key. Now take all these notes for a week and then start with the top three that you find that you do the most often or you say the most often. You could even start with one. I mean, if you want to take on three, take on three. If you want to take on one, take on one. And just start figuring out, where does it come from? Who does it belong to? Is it really true? Byron Katie does some amazing work. And one of the books that she did taught me about, is that true? Is that really true? And when I started really doing that against everything under the sun, to the point like I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it on a keychain just so I can really always ask that question. And then figure out also, what emotions are you feeling? Are you more one of those people like me that the thought comes up, but you feel it more as an emotion that's really uncomfortable for you? And what's going on in that scenario? And what was the behavior that you did? I'm not asking you to stop the behavior. I'm just asking you to have awareness about the behavior and jot it down. And just do that for a week and see where you go with it. And then from there, the next step is going to be, okay, you take that one and you just start working with it. You just, like I said, we figure out, you start paying attention, where does it root from and whose is it, and can you give it back to them, and can you just eliminate it? And again, I know elimination can is, if you're doing it that much, it's number one. It's not that easy just to eliminate it. But I think sometimes when we find out from the source of where it actually comes from, a lot of times it loses its power over us because we start to look at it from many different angles. And getting and gaining that perspective on things really shifts things quite a bit. So I would say that would be first. Like I said, we'll again, to go through it, you want to create your own version of a Sally, and she's just there to give you love and attention and make you aware of what you say all the time. You're going to voice note it, or you're going to put it on your notes on your phone. And then from there, you're going to take 1 to 3 and you're going to figure out where they come from. And it also could be an emotion that you're experiencing and you don't want to feel it. And if you don't want to feel it, then it's starting to figure out, like, why don't I want to feel it? And or what is this emotion really bringing up for me? What is it making me feel uncomfortable? What is it telling me that I really don't want to hear? And again, I think one of the things that comes into play, and I experienced this myself in the beginning, I was so harsh on myself. And the more that I kind of gave myself space to just be in, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just neutral, the more I could start to look at things differently. It didn't like define who I am. And so hopefully that could be really helpful for you to kind of try to take on that perspective. If it works, great. And if it doesn't, then you figure out what works for you. But that one was really helpful for me. So hopefully these will go great.